The Interstellar Academy floated silently in the void, a massive ring of metal and light orbiting a neutral star. Alien ships of every shape and size glided past docking bays, their crews bustling with excitement, chatter, and curiosity. Within its walls, beings from hundreds of species came together to learn, to share knowledge, and to study the marvels of the galaxy. Here, the strongest minds gathered, each species hoping to understand the others and gain an edge in the vast universe. Among the busy corridors and lecture halls, a small delegation of humans arrived, moving with a calm confidence that drew attention immediately. Unlike the flamboyant displays of the Xiphoids, whose shimmering exoskeletons reflected every light, or the towering Vrithians, whose presence alone made smaller species shift nervously, humans were unassuming. Their clothing was plain, their bodies average in size, and yet there was something about the way they carried themselves that made others pause. In the largest lecture hall of the Academy, the humans were introduced before a crowd of students from dozens of worlds. The hall was packed. Seats spiraled upward in tiers, each occupied by curious faces. Some had multiple eyes, some had no discernible faces at all, and others had shapes that seemed impossible for a living creature. Still, every gaze turned toward the humans. The leader of the delegation, a man named Ethan, stepped forward. His voice was steady, warm, and confident. "Greetings," he said. "We are here to share knowledge of our home planet, Earth, and the challenges we face there. You may have heard it is called a Deathworld. We are here to explain why, and why that name does not mean what you think." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The term Deathworld was one the students had heard many times in their studies. Worlds labeled this way were typically harsh, uninhabitable, or dangerous, to the point that most life forms could not survive. To hear humans speak casually about such a world sparked curiosity and a hint of skepticism. A Xiphoid student, sleek and shimmering with iridescent colors, raised one of its many appendages. "Excuse me," it said, its voice a melodic chime. "Why is Earth called a death world? Surely no intelligent species could survive such danger without enhancements or advanced technology. Do humans possess something unique?" The hall quieted. All eyes turned to Ethan. He smiled, a small, knowing curve of his lips. "Earth is dangerous," he admitted. "There are deserts that burn in the sun, storms that tear cities apart, earthquakes, volcanoes, predators, even small animals can be deadly. But we survive not because we are stronger or faster than other species, but because we learn, adapt, and work together. That is what makes Earth a death world. It tests us, shapes us, and forces us to grow. It does not kill us. It teaches us." The aliens blinked or, in some cases, rotated their visual sensors. Many seemed confused. Others were intrigued. A low murmur of disbelief spread through the crowd. A Vrithian student, tall and armored in natural plating, leaned forward. "You speak of storms and predators as if they are teachers. Surely that is illogical. Survival is efficiency. Adaptation without aid is a weakness." Ethan nodded. "You are partially correct. Survival is efficiency. But efficiency alone is not enough. To survive Earth, one must think, plan, and cooperate. You cannot rely only on instinct. You must use your mind, your hands, and your spirit. You must try, fail, and try again." The Xiphoid tilted its head, curious. "Is this a cultural trait, or biological? Surely no species could endure such extremes for millennia without some special evolution." Ethan's gaze swept across the hall. "It is both. Humans are adaptable by biology, yes. We can survive in various climates and eat a wide range of foods. But culture matters more. We build shelters, invent tools, share knowledge, and teach our young to handle danger. A child growing up on Earth learns to respect the world's power, not fear it. That is how we endure." Another human, a woman named Mara, stepped forward. She gestured to the holo projection behind her. Images of Earth appeared. Vast deserts under scorching suns, icy tundras stretching endlessly, cities battered by storms, forests where predators hunted relentlessly. This, Mara said, is our home. Every challenge here forced humans to be clever. We learned to create shelters that protect from extreme heat and cold. We learned to farm in harsh lands. We learned to fight diseases, tame dangerous animals, and survive natural disasters. Each danger shaped us into who we are today. And yet, we do not see Earth as a curse. It is a teacher, and we are its students. Some students whispered to one another. A few shifted uneasily to beings who lived on carefully engineered worlds, where dangers were minimized by technology or biological design. Earth sounded chaotic, almost terrifying. Ethan continued. We understand that you might find it strange. Many species think of a death world as a place where life cannot thrive. But Earth is alive. Its dangers are not obstacles to overcome once and forget they are constant, shaping every decision we make. They build resilience, ingenuity, and strength. That is why humans are feared in some corners of the galaxy. Not because we are unbeatable, but because we can endure what others cannot. A young Valeran, a small quadruped with luminous fur, spoke hesitantly. You say you endure. But what of death? Surely many humans perish in these trials? Ethan's expression grew serious. Yes, many do. But that is the same for all species. The difference is that we do not give up. We learn from every loss, every mistake. We pass that knowledge forward. In time, we grow stronger. Death shapes us, but it does not destroy our spirit. Mara added, Imagine a storm that destroys a village. You could give up, or you could rebuild. Smarter, stronger, safer. That is what we do. That is why Earth is a death world. It tests our will and our minds, and each test leaves us better prepared for the next. The hall was silent. Alien students exchanged glances, some curious, some skeptical, some clearly impressed. The Xiphoid tilted its head again. You describe endurance, cleverness, and culture as survival tools. Perhaps your species is misunderstood. Perhaps Deathworld is not a warning, but a compliment. Ethan chuckled. Exactly. Earth is harsh. It could have crushed us. But instead, it taught us. It forced us to become problem solvers, team players, and innovators. That is why humans are here today, able to speak calmly before dozens of alien species without fear. That is why we are respected and sometimes feared across the galaxy. From the back of the hall, a group of young alien students whispered to one another. Their tone was no longer mocking. It carried curiosity, fascination, and a spark of admiration. They had expected humans to be weak, fragile creatures of a chaotic world. Instead, they were confident, clever, and surprisingly calm. A HoloView projector activated, displaying a map of Earth in glowing colors. Oceans roared, deserts shimmered, mountains pierced the clouds, and storms spiraled across continents. You see this? Ethan said. These are the challenges we face. Every day, humans encounter problems, disasters, and dangers. And every day, we survive. Not by luck, but by intelligence, courage, and cooperation. The aliens leaned forward. Even the Vrithians, who prided themselves on strength and logic, seemed impressed. A final question came from the Xiphoid. And yet, you say humans are not extraordinary biologically? That your survival is mostly cultural? Ethan nodded. Yes, our biology helps, but culture defines us. Our tools, our knowledge, our teamwork, our willingness to face danger, all of these make humans capable of surviving Earth. We are not the fastest, the strongest, or the most deadly species in the galaxy, But we endure where others fail. The lecture ended with a quiet murmur. Some aliens remained seated, still absorbing the words. Others began whispering excitedly, comparing their own species' survival strategies with those of humans. As the human delegation left the hall, Ethan looked back once. His expression was calm, almost proud. Around him, the alien students were buzzing not with fear, but with a new respect. They had expected weak creatures, unworthy of the Deathworld label. Instead, they had found a species that thrived in chaos, that grew stronger under pressure, and that survived by intelligence, ingenuity, and cooperation. And the students understood, even if only partially, that Earth was not a warning, it was a proving ground. Outside the lecture hall, ships continued to glide past the station's ring, stars twinkled across the void, and the galaxy went on in its vast, chaotic glory. Somewhere among the stars, humans had proven again that they could survive, adapt, and endure. And some of the alien students silently decided they would never underestimate Earth or its people again. The first part of the story closed with the hum of curiosity, the spark of respect, and the promise that humanity's reputation as a Deathworld survivor was only beginning to unfold. The lecture hall was silent, the alien students still buzzing with curiosity after the humans' first session. Some had whispered among themselves about the daring and confidence of the humans, others about the strange calm they seemed to carry despite the Deathworld they claimed as home. No one had expected a species to speak so calmly about a planet full of natural dangers. Ethan and Mara, along with the rest of the human delegation, prepared for the next demonstration. This session would not be words on a hologram. It would be a test, a demonstration, a proof that humans could do more than survive, they could thrive where others struggled. The holosuite chamber opened. A large cylindrical room capable of simulating the conditions of any planet. The air shimmered with energy as holographic terrain and weather patterns materialized. A desert under a blazing sun appeared first, vast dunes stretching endlessly. Winds whipped at the walls, carrying simulated sand that stung the skin. Heat radiated as if the room itself were a furnace. Ethan turned to the aliens. "This is one of Earth's deserts. It can be unforgiving. The temperature rises beyond what most species can tolerate. There is little food, little water, and no shelter for miles. How would you survive here?" The Xiphoid raised a tentacle. "Our species could endure for hours, perhaps days, with environmental shielding. But not indefinitely." Mara smiled. "Then observe." She led the aliens through the simulated desert, showing simple, practical survival techniques. She dug a shallow trench, shaded it with cloth, and demonstrated how to store water in natural containers. She pointed out edible plants, insects, and roots that contained hidden moisture. She even showed how to use reflective surfaces to signal for help. The aliens watched, some in awe, some with disbelief. Nothing Mara did required extraordinary strength or alien technology. Just observation, thought, and simple tools, yet every action increased the chance of survival. Ethan added, "On Earth, we learn to improvise. Survival is not a single solution, but a combination of creativity, logic, and patience. Our ancestors survived deserts for thousands of years by doing these simple things, thinking, observing, and acting." The holosuite shifted. Now, the aliens found themselves in the middle of a dense, stormy forest. Heavy rain fell, lightning flashed, and winds tore branches from trees. Strange, large predators lurked in the shadows. The Velerans yelped as simulated creatures roared nearby, their luminescent fur standing on end. "Here," Ethan said, "is a rainforest, full of both opportunity and danger. You need water, food, and shelter. But you must also avoid predators and illness. Watch carefully." Humans moved through the forest with ease. Mara demonstrated building a simple raised platform from nearby branches to avoid ground predators and waterlogged soil. Ethan showed how to use leaves to collect fresh rainwater and how to identify edible plants. The students learned how humans layered knowledge, understanding the environment, using available resources and adapting to immediate threats. Some aliens tried to mimic the humans. The Xiphoids attempted to build a similar platform, but struggled, their exoskeletons making delicate manipulations difficult. The Valerans ran from simulated predators, panicking at every sound. Even the strongest species in the room realized that Earth's dangers were not simple obstacles. They required thinking, problem-solving, and patience. Ethan spoke gently. Notice how humans approach danger. We do not fight everything head-on. We assess, we plan, and we cooperate. A human alone may fail, but together, we succeed. That is how we endure. The aliens were quiet, their earlier skepticism fading. They were beginning to understand that the Deathworld was not a place of sheer brutality alone. It was a training ground, one that shaped humans into creative, cooperative, and resilient beings. Next, the holosuite presented a simulated natural disaster, a massive earthquake striking a city. Buildings shook, streets cracked, and holographic debris fell around them. Some students instinctively tried to flee, but Ethan called for calm. "Observe again," he said. "Humans survive not because we are stronger, but because we anticipate danger. We plan, we prepare, and we act wisely under pressure." Mara led the group through strategies to survive earthquakes, finding safe zones, bracing under sturdy structures, and coordinating with others. The aliens saw humans calmly rescuing simulated victims, creating makeshift bridges over rubble, and using teamwork to prevent injuries. "Efficiency is not enough," Mara said. "You must think, adapt, and use what you have." That is how humans survive Earth's disasters. Even the Vrithians, who had prided themselves on raw strength and logic, began to take notes. They whispered among themselves, astonished at the combination of cleverness, cooperation, and observation displayed by the humans. The final simulation was the most dangerous, a volcanic eruption. Lava flowed, ash filled the air, and the ground shook with tremors. The Xiphoid tentacles quivered as the heat intensified. "Surely this is impossible," one exclaimed. Ethan smiled. "Impossible? Perhaps for some, not for humans." He demonstrated the human approach. First, assess the path. Then use tools and the environment to move safely, and work with others to avoid danger. They diverted lava flows with improvised barriers, guided others to safe zones, and used knowledge of the terrain to escape the worst of the eruption. Every step relied on planning, cooperation, and clever use of simple tools. Afterward, Ethan turned to the aliens. "Do you see the pattern? Strength alone does not ensure survival. Biological enhancements, shields, or brute force are helpful, but creativity, cooperation, and adaptability are what truly matter." A murmur of admiration spread through the hall. The aliens, many of whom had never faced such harsh conditions in their own lives, were learning something new. Humans thrived not because they were genetically superior, but because they had learned to think, adapt, and work together. The Xiphoid student spoke, its tone cautious yet filled with wonder. "Your species thrives in what others fear. You endure, not by power, but by intellect, culture, and cooperation. Perhaps Earth is not a death world in the way we understood it. Perhaps it is a proving ground." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Every challenge we face forces us to innovate. Every danger teaches us something new. That is why humans survive, and often succeed where others fail." The Valaran student, still catching its breath from the simulations, said softly, "It is remarkable. We thought strength alone would matter. We did not realize that survival could depend so much on cleverness and unity." Mara smiled. "Unity is key. Humans have learned that we cannot survive alone. We share knowledge, teach each other, and solve problems together. Even when a challenge seems overwhelming, cooperation and thought can turn it into opportunity." A low hum of discussion filled the holosuite. Aliens who had doubted humans were now whispering about Earth's unique conditions and the species that had learned to master them. They compared notes, recalculated survival probabilities, and began to realize that they had underestimated humanity. Ethan concluded the session. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We are not the most dangerous in combat. But we endure, adapt, and thrive. That is why Earth may be called a death world, but also why humans are feared, respected, and sometimes admired throughout the galaxy. As the simulations ended, the aliens returned to their seats, visibly changed. Some were excited, some contemplative, and some silent in awe. They had come expecting weak, fragile humans from a chaotic planet. Instead, they found a species that faced danger not with panic or fear, but with intelligence, creativity, and teamwork. The xiphoid student, who had first asked the question, leaned back and regarded the humans with newfound respect. We misjudged you, it admitted. Death worlds are meant to destroy, yet your species flourishes. Perhaps we have much to learn. Ethan and Mara exchanged a brief glance, subtle but full of meaning. The aliens' reaction was exactly what they had hoped for. Humans had proven something simple, yet profound. Survival was not about avoiding danger, it was about facing it, learning from it, and growing stronger in the process. As the lecture hall emptied, groups of students lingered, talking quietly among themselves. They discussed Earth's harsh environments, the humans' clever solutions, and the surprising adaptability of a species they had underestimated. Some made plans to study human methods further, hoping to learn the secrets of their resilience. Outside the holosuite, the delegation walked calmly through the station corridors. Despite the vast differences in appearance and culture, the humans moved with quiet confidence. They had faced skepticism, demonstrated their abilities, and shown that survival was more than strength, it was intelligence, cooperation, and courage. Ethan looked at Mara. They are starting to understand, he said. Not completely, but enough to respect what it takes to survive Earth. That is the first step, Mara nodded. Next time, we can show them how humans handle social challenges, technology, and unforeseen threats. Survival is only part of the story. Adaptation in every way, physical, mental, cultural, is what makes humans remarkable. And somewhere in the corridors, alien students whispered among themselves. Earth's death world reputation no longer seemed like a warning. Instead, it became a symbol of challenge, growth, and achievement. A world that forged a species capable of remarkable feats. The first seeds of respect had been planted, and soon, the galaxy would learn that humans were not to be underestimated. Not because of their strength alone, but because they had learned the most important skill of all: how to survive and thrive in a universe full of danger. The alien students had spent days studying humans in the holosuite, observing simulations of deserts, forests, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Many of them had begun to grasp the human approach. Observation, cooperation, creativity, and perseverance. Yet some still doubted that humans could survive truly unexpected challenges. To prove their point, Ethan and Mara prepared a final demonstration, one unlike any before. This time, the humans would not merely act in familiar conditions, they would face a situation that even alien species had not anticipated. The holosuite shifted, reshaping into a chaotic environment, a mix of extreme heat, sudden flooding, dense forest, and sharp terrain, all layered unpredictably. Holographic storms raged overhead, rivers overflowed, and jagged rocks tore at the ground. The sounds of predators echoed in the distance. Aliens gasped at the complexity, their multiple eyes and sensors unable to immediately make sense of the scene. This is a composite scenario, Ethan explained. Earth is not simple. It does not challenge us in one way at a time. Danger comes from multiple directions. You cannot rely on a single skill, a single tool, or a single strength. You must observe, adapt, and cooperate. That is how humans survive. Mara added, we will show you what it looks like in action. Pay close attention. Humans moved into the chaos with calm, measured steps. Ethan assessed the terrain, noting dangerous areas and potential shelter points. Mara quickly gathered resources: branches, leaves, rocks, and water containers. Humans communicated quietly, pointing out hazards and guiding each other around the worst of the threats. A sudden flood surged through the lower terrain. The Velerans panicked, yipping and bounding away from the simulated water, unable to predict its movement. The Xiphoid struggled to adjust, its limbs slipping on the slick ground. Yet the humans responded seamlessly. They built small barriers to redirect the flow, guided others to safe zones, and used teamwork to ensure that no one was stranded. Ethan shouted, "Use the materials around you. Observe the patterns. Work together." Within minutes, the humans had stabilized their situation, not by brute force, but by careful planning, clever improvisation, and constant communication. Aliens watched in awe. Many began to understand that survival was not a matter of strength. It was a combination of intelligence, creativity, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Then came the predators. Simulated creatures with sharp teeth and claws prowled through the forest, tracking movement. Several alien students froze in fear, their instincts telling them to run blindly or attack. Humans, however, remained composed. Mara used a makeshift diversion to lead the creatures away, while Ethan coordinated a safe escape route. Every action was precise, every decision thoughtful. The aliens whispered among themselves. "They are not fighting," one Xiphoid said. "They are guiding and managing. It is unlike anything we have seen." A young Valaran tried to mimic the humans but failed repeatedly. Ethan noticed and stepped in, demonstrating how to use tools and the environment to outsmart the predators rather than confront them directly. Slowly, the Velarin learned, adjusting its strategy with human guidance. "This is the essence of human survival," Ethan said. "We do not depend on strength alone. We use our minds, our cooperation, and our creativity. That is how we endure challenges that seem impossible." As the simulation continued, a massive volcanic eruption began in the distance. Lava flowed unpredictably, and ash filled the air. The aliens gasped in shock. Even experienced species in the academy would struggle to navigate this environment. Humans, however, assessed the danger quickly. They located safe zones, improvised bridges, and redirected hazards using the terrain and simple tools. They helped alien students navigate the chaos, sharing knowledge, calming fears, and ensuring that no one was left behind. The Xiphoid student, who had first questioned Earth's Deathworld label, finally spoke aloud. "It is remarkable. Humans do not survive by chance. Every action is calculated, every decision thought through. You endure because you think, not because you are stronger than the danger itself." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Earth teaches us to think, adapt, and cooperate. Every danger, every disaster, every predator or storm shapes us into problem solvers. That is why humans thrive where others struggle or fail." The Valerans, now more confident under human guidance, began experimenting with their own strategies, slowly realizing that raw instincts alone were insufficient. The humans' calm and methodical approach was contagious. Even the strongest, most confident species in the room were beginning to understand the power of human ingenuity. Mara guided the group to a relatively safe area near the volcanic simulation. Lava flowed around, rivers flooded, storms raged above, yet the humans remained calm. "Observe," she said, "how humans deal with compounded danger. We do not panic. We prioritize, we improvise, and we act together. Survival is a mental game as much as a physical one." A young Xiphoid student, its voice trembling with awe, asked, "Is this your everyday life? Facing such danger constantly?" Ethan smiled. "Not always like this. But Earth is unpredictable. Some days are calm. Some days are chaotic. What matters is how we respond. We learn. We prepare. and we adapt. That mindset, calm under pressure, is what makes humans capable of surviving where others might fail. The aliens began to see a pattern. Humans thrived not because the world was easy, but because they had learned to embrace difficulty. Each challenge was an opportunity to grow, each danger a lesson. Survival was not just a physical act, it was a mental discipline, a cultural practice, and a collaborative effort. A loud roar echoed across the simulation. A massive predator appeared, blocking the only path forward. Alien students froze, unsure of what to do. Humans, however, quickly assessed the situation. Ethan and Mara coordinated a distraction while guiding the aliens along a safer route. The predator, distracted and outsmarted, moved away. The aliens could not hide their astonishment. That was incredible, said one young Velaran. You are not the strongest, yet you managed a threat none of us could face alone. Mara replied, Strength alone cannot solve every problem. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and cooperate. Danger teaches us to be clever, resourceful, and calm. That is what the Deathworld did for us. The simulation finally ended. The room returned to normal, and the aliens slowly processed what they had witnessed. Silence hung in the air before low murmurs began. Some spoke of astonishment, some of admiration, and some of quiet respect. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived, all while teaching others to do the same. The xiphoid student, once skeptical, now regarded the humans with reverence. We underestimated you. We assumed the Deathworld label meant suffering, weakness, or fragility. Instead, we see endurance, intelligence, and cooperation. You have turned danger into strength. Truly, humans are remarkable. Ethan looked at the group, his expression calm yet proud. That is the point. Earth challenges us, and we rise to meet it. Danger does not define us, our response does. We survive not by accident, but by choice, by learning, and by working together. That is why humans are feared, respected, and sometimes admired across the galaxy. The Vrithians, known for valuing strength above all else, whispered among themselves. Perhaps we have relied too much on raw power. One said, perhaps the mind, cooperation, and adaptability matter even more than we realized. The Velarans, the xiphoids, and several other species began taking mental notes. Some even approached the humans with questions about specific strategies, eager to understand the methods that allowed a seemingly fragile species to survive extreme danger. Ethan smiled. Earth's Deathworld reputation is not a warning. It is a challenge, and humans have learned to face every challenge with ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. That is what makes us remarkable. That is what makes us endure. Mara added, You will remember this lesson. Strength alone does not guarantee survival. Knowledge, cooperation, and cleverness are often more important. The galaxy may be full of dangers, but humans will always find a way. The alien students, now buzzing with awe and inspiration, silently acknowledged the truth. Earth was not a world that crushed its inhabitants. It was a world that shaped them, molded them, and prepared them for every obstacle. Humans were not just survivors, they were problem solvers, innovators, and exemplars of resilience. As the aliens filed out of the holosuite, many paused to look back at the humans. Some whispered among themselves, they endure where others fail. They think, adapt, and cooperate. They are stronger because they learn, not because they fight. Ethan and Mara walked calmly through the hallways of the academy. They had proven their point. They had shown that humans could face chaos, danger, and the unpredictable, and not only survive but thrive. The aliens had witnessed ingenuity, calmness, and teamwork at work, and their perceptions had changed forever. Outside the station, stars glittered across the void. Ships continued their journeys, carrying countless species to new worlds and new challenges. Somewhere among the stars, humans had shown that survival was not about avoiding danger, It was about facing it, learning from it, and becoming stronger in the process. The aliens' first seeds of respect had grown into understanding. They realized that the humans' so-called fragility was an illusion, and that the Deathworld they hailed from was not a prison but a teacher. Earth's hazards had forged a species capable of remarkable feats, and the galaxy had only begun to notice. Ethan glanced at Mara, and they shared a brief, satisfied smile. Humanity had spoken without words, demonstrated without boasting, and inspired without trying. That was the human way. And as the aliens dispersed, quietly marveling at what they had witnessed, one truth became clear. Earth was called a death world, not because it destroyed life, but because it created it stronger, smarter, and capable of surviving where others might falter. Humans had survived. Humans had adapted. Humans had endured. And the galaxy would remember that lesson for generations to come.